सो एग्जामिनर, अगर आज का डिस्कशन है हमारा पेरिफेरल न्यूरोपैथी पे। पेरिफेरल न्यूरोपैथी, सो पहला क्वेश्चन एग्जामिनर कहता है कि व्हाट इज योर डायग्नोसिस। देन यू विल से इट इज ए केस ऑफ पेरिफेरल न्यूरोपैथी। इट इज ए केस ऑफ पेरिफेरल न्यूरोपैथी which is resulting from chronic alcoholism. So it is a case of peripheral neuropathy resulting from chronic alcoholism. Like this you can say to the examiner. Then the examiner can ask how your patient presented himself, how your patient presented. Then you will say, then what will you say? Then you will describe the presentation of the patient. Then you will say 55-year-old male patient presented in the hospital 2 weeks back with chief complaint of, you will say, my patient 55-year-old presented 2 weeks back with chief complaints of sensations of pins and needle, that is tingling and numbness in the distal parts of the upper and lower limbs for the last 5 months. So he presented from in the hospital from last 2 weeks, but he has the complaints of, what are the complaints? He has the complaints of pins and needles. Pins and needles are numbness tingling and numbness in the distal parts of the upper and the lower limb, from the last 5 months. So here this complaints pins and needle sensation in the distal parts of the upper limb and the lower limb from the last 5 months. He has also the history of loss of power. That is, I am describing now the motor symptoms. First I described the sensory system, in which he has the complaint of pins and needle or tingling and numbness. Now he has the motor weakness in the form of loss of power in all the four limbs from the last 3 months, which was more pronounced distally. So he has associated, first he has the sensory complaints, then he has the motor complaints, in which he has the loss of power in all the four limbs from the last 3 months. So loss of power, first there is sensation gone from last 5 months, then there is loss of power in all the four limbs from last 3 months, which is more pronounced distally. It is also distally from the last 3 months. He has also the history of loss of power. Then patient also has the wasting of the distal part of the limbs with pain in the limbs for the last 1 month. So despite this, patient also has history of wasting of the distal part of the limb with pain in the limbs from the last 1 month. The onset of the disease was insidious, it was gradually progressive. So the disease onset was insidious and it was gradually progressive. The tingling sensation started distally and it was limited in the glove and stocking distribution, feet earlier than the hands. So the onset of the disease was insidious and it was gradually progressive. The tingling sensation started distally and it was limited in the glove and stocking distribution, that is feet earlier than the hands. The weakness started in the distal part of all the four limbs. The weakness started in the distal part of all the four limbs on different dates. According to the patient, there was no weakness in the proximal muscles and the weakness was not related to the repeated use of the muscles to rule out myasthenia gravis. So, the weakness started in the distal parts of all the four limbs on different dates. According to the patient, there was no weakness in the proximal muscles and the weakness was not related to the repeated use of the muscles. This repeated use of muscle I have included to rule out the myasthenia gravis. He also complained of weakness in the grip and difficulty in holding objects. So he also has complained of weakness in the grip and difficulty in holding objects. However, according to the patient, the legs are weaker than the hands. He gave the history of slippers falling from the feet. He also gave the history of slippers falling from the feet. There was no history of waxing and waning to rule out multiple sclerosis. So there is no history of waxing and waning. Similarly, like myasthenia gravis, it was not related to the repeated use of the muscle. Similarly, it was not having any waxing and waning pattern to rule out multiple sclerosis. He had no history of respiratory distress to rule out GB syndrome. He is now facing difficulty in standing and walking, while severity of all the symptoms have increased over the last few weeks. The patient is not complaining of any bowel and bladder involvement at present to rule out myelopathy. The patient is not complaining of any bowel and bladder symptoms at present. He did not suffer from hematemesis or melena due to alcoholism. So there is no history of hematemesis or melena due to alcoholism. There is no history of headache, vomiting, convulsions. There is no history of speech difficulty, diplopia, nasal regurgitation, or intonation to rule out cranial nerve palsy. There is no history of headache, vomiting, convulsions, speech difficulty, diplopia, nasal regurgitation, or intonation. There was neither any past history of spinal trauma, fever, history of contact with tuberculosis, history of exposure to STDs, white spots in the body to rule out leprosy, or any vaccination in the past, or exposure to the arsenicals, or nitrofurantoin, or isoniazid, or vincristine. Now the patient was suffering from, nor the patient was suffering from diabetes mellitus. So I will again repeat, he did not has any history of, so he did not give any history of hematemesis or melena. It is just to rule out alcoholism. There is no history of headache, vomiting, convulsions, speech difficulty, diplopia, nasal regurgitation, or intonation. This was due to rule out cranial nerve involvement. There is no past history of spinal trauma. There is no past history of spinal trauma. There is no past history of spinal trauma. There is no history of fever, no history of contact with TB. There is no history of exposure to sexually transmitted disease to rule out the syphilis. There is no history of white spots in the body to rule out leprosy. There is no history of vaccination in the past. There is no history of exposure to, there is no history of vaccination. There is no history of exposure to arsenic, isoniazid, or vincristine. Nor the patient is suffering from diabetes mellitus. There is no history of diabetes mellitus. The the patient was taking alcohol. The patient was taking alcohol, which is about 60 to 90 ml of whiskey, 60 to 90 ml of whiskey, more or less daily for the last 15 years. He is taking whiskey from last 15 years. There is no family history of similar type, no history of family history of similar type of illness. Preceding the glove and stocking type of paresthesias, there may be hyperesthesias. The distal paresthesia usually affects the feet first and then the hands are affected. So I will narrate the how does the patient present. So the patient has the complaint of, this was our patient, he is alcoholic from last 15 years. How it presents? So he will say he is having the pins and needle sensation in the distal parts of the upper and lower limbs from the last 5 months. So he has pins and needle sensation in the from the last 5 months in the upper and the lower distal parts of the upper and the lower limbs. Upper and the lower limbs in the distal parts. He has the pins and needle sensation, and from the last the 3 months he also has complained of loss of power. Loss of power in the all the four limbs from the last 3 months, which is more pronounced distally. It is also occurring in all the four limbs but more pronounced distally. He also has wasting of the distal parts of the limbs associated with pain. So there is wasting and pain in the distal parts of the limb, wasting and pain from last 1 month. So how does the patient present? He has pins and needles and distal parts of the both the upper and the lower limb from the last 5 months. He also has the loss of power in the distal parts of all the four limbs from last 3 months. He also has wasting and pains in the distal parts from the last 1 month. So this was the presenting complaints. Then the disease onset was insidious. The disease was insidious onset, and it was gradually progressive. Insidious onset. The tingling sensation starts. This tingling sensation start distally, and it was limited in the glove and stocking distribution. Feet earlier than the hands. The weakness started in the distal part. It started in the distal part of all the four limbs on different dates. According to the patient, there was no weakness in the proximal muscle. There was no weakness in the proximal muscle. No weakness in the proximal muscles, and the weakness was not related to the repeated use of the muscle. The weakness has no relation with the repeated use of muscle to rule out myasthenia gravis. Legs are weaker. According to the patient, there was a complaint of weakness in the grip. There was grip weakness. There was grip weakness, and also there was difficulty in holding objects. Difficulty in holding objects. So there was difficulty in holding objects. Then there was no history of waxing and waning type of weakness to rule out. There is no history of waxing and waning to rule out multiple sclerosis. There is no history of respiratory distress to rule out. There is no history of respiratory distress to rule out GB syndrome. There is now she is now suffering from difficulty in standing and walking, while the severity of all these symptoms has increased over the last few weeks. The patient is not complaining of bowel and bladder involvement, just to rule out myelopathy. There is no history of bowel and bladder involvement, and also he did not suffer from hematemesis or melena to rule out the effects of alcoholic. There is no history of headache, vomiting, convulsions, speech difficulty, diplopia, nasal regurgitation or intonation to rule out the cranial nerve involvement. There was neither any past history of spinal trauma. No spinal trauma was there. There is no history of fever or contact with TB patient to rule out tuberculosis. There is no history of exposure to STD to rule out syphilis. Then there is no history of white spots in the body to rule out leprosy. There is no history of vaccination in the past to rule out transverse mellitus or GB syndrome. There is no history of vaccination. There is no history of exposure to arsenic or isoniazide or vincristine or nitrofurantoin to rule out drug-induced neuropathies. Nor the patient is suffering from diabetes mellitus. The patient was taking alcohol, already told, taking whiskey from last 15 years. There is no family history of similar type of illness. Preceding the glove and stocking type of paresthesias, there may be hyperesthesias. The distal paresthesia usually affects the feet first and then the hands are affected. So this is how the patient presents. So what are the special points in the physical examination in peripheral neuropathy? So if you are being asked to examine a case of peripheral neuropathy, how will you examine? You will say first the journal survey, you will do the journal survey, and then you will proceed on to the nervous system. So what you will find in a case of peripheral neuropathy, you will say the patient is conscious and cooperative. There may be moderate anemia may be there, moderate anemia may be present, jaundice may be absent, then decubitus, dorsal decubitus at present, lying helplessly with bilateral foot drop. You can find the foot drop, bilateral foot drop may be there, jaundice is absent, anemia will be there, foot drop will be there, dorsal decubitus at present, parotid gland a bit swollen. You can say if you are suspecting it to be alcoholism. So swollen parotid, it could be there if you are suspecting alcoholic. Then gynecomastia is absent, it may be present. Face is a bit flushed and anxious. There may be malar flush like in alcoholic. There can be palmar erythema also. So facial flushing will be there. Anxious look can be there. Then BP is 140 by 80. Skin, on the skin there you are finding no white spots detected to rule out leprosy. All the limbs are lying helplessly with bilateral foot drop due to chronic alcoholism. Ulnar and common peroneal nerves are not thickened to rule out leprosy. Edema is absent. Mention all the points in clinical journal survey. So what are the findings in journal survey? Anemia, foot drops, swollen parotid, flushes and anxious look. While the negative findings, you are not finding any thickened nerves, you are not finding any white spots, just to rule out leprosy. Then examination of the nervous system. So this was the journal survey. Now in nervous system, the patient is conscious, alert, oriented and cooperative. Higher functions are normal. So he is conscious, cooperative, oriented to conscious, cooperative, well oriented to time, place and person. Higher functions are normal. Speech is not affected. Cranium and spine is within normal limit. Neck rigidity, Kerning sign is absent. Absent neck rigidity, Kerning sign is absent. Neck rigidity is absent. Straight leg raising test is negative. Straight leg raising test is negative. Cranial nerve, there is neither palatal palsy to rule out diphtheria. There is no palatal palsy. Palatal palsy is absent just to rule out diphtheria, or seventh nerve palsy. Seventh nerve palsy is absent to rule out GB syndrome. Ophthalmoscopy not run may reveal diabetes. So ophthalmoscopy may reveal diabetes is absent. You have not done it. We are discussing the nervous system examination finding. So you will say the patient is conscious, cooperative, well oriented, higher functions normal, speech is normal, straight leg rising test is cranium and spine is within normal, straight leg rising test is negative. Then there is no neck rigidity, no Kerning sign, palatal palsy is absent. Seven nerve is not involved to rule out GB syndrome. Then ophthalmoscopy not done. If it would have been done, it will may show the features of diabetes. Then in the motor functions, this was about now the cranial nerves. Cranial nerves has done. Now these motor functions. In the nervous system examination, you will say what are the motor functions. Attitude, you will say it there is bilateral foot drop with paucity of spontaneous movements, in the limbs. Nutrition, there is wasting of small muscles of the feet and hands. Wasting of small muscles of the feet and hands. Wasting is seen in the extensors of the legs. So you will find the wasting if you are suspecting peripheral neuropathy. Wasting in small muscles of feet and hand. Wasting in the small muscles of the feet and hand. Wasting is seen in the extensors of the limbs. Then tone is diminished in wasting. There is wasting of the small muscles of the hands and feet. Tone is diminished in all the limbs. Especially in the distal muscles. Tone is decreased in all the limbs, especially in the distal muscles. Tone is diminished. Then power. For the power in peripheral neuropathy, you will say in the lower limb, proximal muscles are of grade 5, but the extensors of the legs are of grade 2. So extensors are going. Proximals are grade 5 and extensors of the legs, that is of the distal muscles, the extensors of the legs are of grade 2 power, while proximal muscles are of grade 5 power, while the leg muscles are of grade 2 power. Flexors of the legs are of grade 3. Flexors having slightly more power than the extensors. Flexors are of grade 3 power. Now similarly in the upper limb, you will say the proximals are of grade 5, but the distals are of grade 4. In the distal you have the grade 4 power. So you will, in this way you will check the power. You will say proximal and distal. You will say proximal and distal in the lower limb and the proximal and distal in the upper limb. This was the nutrition, tone, power, NTPC coordination. First, before that, no involvement of the trunk or respiratory muscle. You will say there is no power in loss in the trunk and respiratory muscles. Then you will come on to the coordination. Upper limb is within normal limit. Lower limb power coordination could not be tested. Upper limb coordination is within normal limit and the lower limb coordination could not be tested. Upper limb is within normal limit, lower limb could not be tested. This was about the coordination. Then involuntary movements are nil. involuntary movements. There is no involuntary movements. So this was about the motor function. Now come to the sensory functions. So sensory function of a case of peripheral neuropathy. So you will say first the superficial sensation, then comes to the deep sensation, and then come to the cortical sensation. So what about the superficial sensation? In the superficial sensation, you will say the pain, touch, and temperature. Sensations are lost in the distal part of the limbs, and it is rather bilaterally symmetrical involvement. So superficial sensation, pain, touch, and temperature sensations are lost. Pain, touch, and temperature sensations are lost in the distal part of the limbs, and it is rather bilateral symmetric involvement. So pain, touch, temperature are lost in the distal parts of the limbs, and is rather bilateral symmetrical involvement is there. Proximal sensations are relatively intact. So distals are gone. Distal pain, touch, temperature sensations are gone, and they are bilaterally symmetrically lost, while the proximal sensations are intact. Proximal sensations are intact. Proximal sensations are relatively intact. There is no involvement of the face and neck, and the sensory involvement is glove and stocking in distribution. No involvement of the face and neck, and the sensory involvement is glove and stacking in distribution. There is no definite line of demarcation between the normal and anesthetic skin. There is no definite line of demarcation between the normal and the anesthetic skin. This is important. There is no definite line of demarcation between the normal and the anesthetic skin, and this indicates there is patchy involvement. Patchy involvement is there. So I will repeat the superficial sensation. This is very important. Pain, touch, and temperature. Pain, touch, temperature, they are lost in the distal part of the limbs, and it is rather bilateral symmetrical involvement is there. Pain, touch, temperature is lost in the distal parts of the limb. Proximal sensations are intact. No involvement of the face or the neck is seen, and the sensory involvement is glove and stocking in distribution. There is no definite line of demarcation between the normal and the anesthetic skin. Patchy involvement is there. Then in deep sensation, this was about the superficial sensation, that is pain, touch, and temperature. Now the deep sensation, the vibration sense are lost. Vibration sense are lost distally, lost in distally, and impaired proximally. Vibrations are lost distally. Then muscle sensations. Calf muscles are tender on palpation and squeezing. Calf muscles are tender on, this is the calf muscle sensation. Calf muscle, these are tender, and on squeezing there is pain. That is called as Abadi sign. What is Abadi sign? Abadi sign, that is calf muscle is tender on palpation and on squeezing. That is your peripheral neuropathy. It indicates peripheral neuropathy. That is the Abadi sign, calf muscle tenderness and on palpation and on squeezing. Position sense is also lost. So what are the deep sensation? Vibration, muscle. Then position sense is also lost distally, and joint senses is also lost distally. So vibration sense, position sense, joint sense, muscle sense, these are all lost distally. So examiner can ask how you test the point position sensation, joint sensation. So you have to elaborate that. Muscle sensation, vibration sensation, these are all lost distally. This was your deep sensation. Now comes to the cortical sensation. What are the cortical sensation? All cortical sensations are impaired in peripheral neuropathy. What are the cortical sensation? 1 point discrimination, 1 point localization, 2 point discrimination, 2 point discrimination, stereognosis, graphesthesia, sensory extinction. So these are the cortical sensation. So 1 point localization, 2 point discrimination, stereognosis, graphesthesia, sensory extinction. These are the cortical sensation. These are all impaired in peripheral neuropathy. So 1 point localization, 2 point discrimination, stereognosis, graphesthesia, sensory extinction. In a patient of peripheral neuropathy, cortical sensations cannot be tested properly. If in a patient with peripheral neuropathy, you cannot test the cortical sensation properly. Now about the reflexes. Now we will move on to the reflexes in the examination. So what are the superficial reflexes you know, and what are the deep you know? You have to elaborate. In the superficial reflexes, you have the abdominal, cremasteric, and plantar. So what you will say? You will say no response in right side and in left side in cremasteric, plantar. So abdominal, cremasteric, plantar, these are all superficial. There is no response in both the right and the left side of the body. In peripheral neuropathy, there is no response. Now comes to the deep reflexes, that is your biceps jerk, triceps jerk, supinator jerk, knee jerk, ankle jerk, and colonus. Colonus is also deep reflex. So it biceps and triceps are normal, both sides, biceps triceps normal, while supinator jerk is diminished and knee jerk is diminished. Both sides, supinator and knee jerk is diminished. Ankle jerk is lost in both sides, ankle is lost and colonus is absent. Ankle is lost and colonus is absent. So this was the deep reflexes. Now visceral reflexes, bowel, bladder, and swallowing. These are the visceral reflexes within normal limit. Bowel, bladder, and swallowing are within normal limit. Other reflexes shows no abnormality. What are the other reflexes? We have the glabular tap, grasp reflux, and palmomental reflux. Palmomental reflux shows no abnormality. So glabular tap, grasp reflux, palmomental reflux shows no abnormality. So glabular reflux, grasp reflux, palmomental reflux shows no abnormality. Plantar response is never extensor in peripheral neuropathy. Plantar, write down this is in, you should write it down in a red pen. This is very important. Plantar response will never be extensor if you are dealing a case of peripheral neuropathy. So plantar response will never be extensor in peripheral neuropathy. Plantar response will never be extensor in peripheral neuropathy. So then other reflexes include tropic changes. What are the tropic changes? Trophic changes. A trophic ulcer is seen in the ball of the great toe. In the ball of the great toe, you are finding the trophic ulcer. A large bed sore is seen over the sacrum. Bed sore is seen over the sacrum. Bed sore is seen over the sacrum. Charcot joint is not present. So you will find the tropical ulcer on the ball of the great toe and bed sore on sacrum. Tropic joints are not seen. Cerebellar functions are normal. Autonomic functions are within normal limit. Important of autonomic function lies in diabetes mellitus and GB syndrome. Stance and gait could not be tested. There will be high stepping gait if the patient could walk. So high stepping gait is seen in peripheral neuropathy. If the patient could walk, you can find the high stepping gait. Romberg sign could not be tested. So what are the things you could not test? You could not test the coordination, you could not test the gait or the stance, you could not test the Romberg sign. So this was the nervous system examination. Now in the case of peripheral neuropathy, what are the gastrointestinal tract examination? In the GIT, you will find is since beta folic acid deficiency can cause this neuropathy, so you can find the angular stomatitis. Angular stomatitis. Also, you can find the glossitis. There is loss of papillae, glossitis. Then you can also find the epigastrium will be tender. Epigastrium tenderness will be there. No venous prominence over the abdomen, no venous prominence, just to rule out alcoholic manifestation, no venous prominence over the abdomen. Spleen is not palpable, spleen not palpable. Liver mildly enlarged, it is soft and tender. Ascites is absent, testis within normal limit. Per rectum not done, per rectal examination not done. All the GIT features are due to chronic alcoholism, vitamin and iron deficiency. Vitamin and iron deficiency, it is because of chronic alcoholism. So these are the GI manifestation in a patient with peripheral neuropathy with alcoholic. Now cardiovascular system examination, pulse and BP, we have to describe it in detail. BP is 140/80. In supine patient, neck veins neither engorged nor pulsatile. Neck veins neither engorged nor pulsatile. Shape of the precordium is within normal limit. Apex beauty is in the fifth intercostal space, half inch below inside the mid clavicular line. Pulsations in different areas is not seen. Palpation of the different areas, no thrill, no pulsation felt, no palpable heart sound. So no thrill, no pulsations, no palpable heart sound. This is your palpation of different areas. You find no thrill, no pulsation, no palpable heart sounds, no pulsation in any other areas. Heart sounds are within normal limit, heart sounds within normal limit. Murmur is absent. Heart sounds within normal limit, murmur is absent. Then comes to the respiratory system. You have to comment on the shape of the chest, movement of the chest, trachea, apex beat within normal limit, percussion, normal resonant node on both the sides, normal resonance node on both sides, vesicular breath sound is there, vocal resonance normal on both sides, adventition sound is absent. Then lymphoreticular system, anemia is present, moderate anemia is there, lymphadenopathy is absent, sternal tenderness absent, hemorrhagic spots absent. So then the examiner can ask lymphoreticular, so you can remember ALSH, anemia present, lymphadenopathy absent, sternal tenderness absent, hemorrhagic spots absent. Then why do you say, the examiner can ask question, why do you say it's peripheral neuropathy? Why it is peripheral neuropathy? Then you will discuss the presenting symptoms plus the important signs that you have elicit. Then you will discuss the symptoms and signs. Based on that, you will say give stress on the power of the muscles, details of the sensory functions and the tropic changes. You have to give stress on the power, details of the sensory functions and tropic changes. So you have to put your stress on this. You will say power is not there, so it is peripheral neuropathy. Sensory symptoms are there, so it's peripheral neuropathy. Tropic changes are there, so it's peripheral neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy will have element type of paralysis plus sensory abnormalities. So what does the peripheral neuropathy will have? It will have LMN type of features, MLN type of paralysis plus minus sensory abnormalities. So this is very important. L, M and type and peripheral neuropathy. Remember, the plantar will never be extensor, already told. It will either be absent or flexor, but neither be extensor. So what is the importance of past history in peripheral neuropathy? So you will say the importance of past history in peripheral neuropathy. There is history of chronic, he's taking chronic alcohol intake. Past history, he's taking chronic alcoholism, diabetes mellitus, leprosy, renal failure. This is important. Spinal trauma in the past is important. Then history of contact with TB, history of contact with TB, history of vaccination in the past, history of exposure to HIV, STD, syphilis, history of exposure to drugs like isoniazid, vincristine, history of any solvent intake, pesticides, heavy metals, history of fever and air reflexes paralysis in GB syndrome. So in GB syndrome you have to ask history of vaccination is also there in GB syndrome. Also if there is any history of respiratory distress, that will also focus on the GB syndrome. So in GB syndrome, respiratory distress history or history of fever or history of vaccination, these are, a history of diarrhea is also there. It can point towards the GB syndrome. So the important past history in peripheral neuropathy is any chronic alcoholic history, any diabetic history, any leprosy, renal failure, spinal trauma, contact with tuberculosis, vaccination in the past, history of exposure to a sexually transmitted disease like HIV, history of exposure to drugs like isoniazid, vincristine, history of any exposure to solvents, pesticides, heavy metals, any history of exposure to fever. This is important. Then what are the common causes of peripheral neuropathy? Examiner can ask what are the common causes of peripheral neuropathy. Then you will say toxins, metabolic causes, infective, deficiencies, connective tissue disorders, disseminated malignancies, hereditary. In the hereditary, or it is also idiopathic, we have the Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease that cause peripheral neuropathy. And in the toxins, we have the alcohol, lead, arsenic, mercury, triarthocrysophosphate, chrysol phosphate, triarthochrysol phosphate. So arsenic, lead, mercury, alcohol, these are important toxins that can cause your peripheral neuropathy. In metabolic causes, we have the diabetes mellitus, chronic renal failure, porphyria can cause neuropathies, hypothyroidism, amyloidosis, Refsum disease. So diabetes, chronic renal failure, porphyria, hypothyroidism, amyloidosis, Refsum disease, this can cause your, so diabetes, chronic renal failure, porphyrias, hypothyroidism, they can cause your peripheral neuropathy. In the infective cause, you have the leprosy, diphtheria, Guillain-Barré syndrome, viral hepatitis. That's why what we are doing the hepatitis B serology. Enteric fever and HIV infections. This can cause your infective cause of peripheral neuropathy. What are the infective cause? Leprosy, diphtheria, Guillain-Barré syndrome, then viral hepatitis, enteric fever, typhoid can cause peripheral neuropathy, which we are seeing so many cases of typhoid, but we are never focused that it can cause your peripheral neuropathy. Even HIV, so you know HIV can cause neuropathy. Syphilis also causes the neuropathy, and not mentioned here. What are the deficiencies that can cause neuropathies? We have the thiamine B1 deficiency, B12 deficiency, B6 deficiency, nicotinic acid deficiency, vitamin E deficiency, folate deficiency, so many vitamins are there. Thiamine, vitamin B1, B6, B12, nicotinic acid, nicotinic acid, nicotinic acid is vitamin B3, I think. Then pantothenic acid, vitamin E and folate, these can cause your peripheral neuropathy. Then connective tissue disorders which can cause your peripheral neuropathy. We have the systemic lupus erythematosus can cause peripheral rheumatoid arthritis, polyarthritis nodosa, cryoglobulinemia, Sjogren syndrome. So these are the important causes of connective tissue disorder. What are the connective tissue disorders that can cause your peripheral neuropathy? We have the systemic lupus erythematosus, rheumatoid arthritis, polyarthritis nodosa, cryoglobulinemia, Sjogren syndrome. So these are your favorite pet questions. SLE, rheumatoid, you will find in so many conditions. So you have to keep hammer in your mind that SLE and rheumatoid arthritis, these are the connective tissue disorders that can cause peripheral neuropathies. SLE is rheumatoid arthritis. In addition to that of SLE and rheumatoid arthritis, you can add on polyarthritis nodosa, Sjogren syndrome, cryoglobulinemia. So, despite this, disseminated malignancies, paraneoplastic syndrome, lymphoma, multiple myeloma. Malignancies, lymphoma, multiple myeloma, hammer in your mind, lymphoma, multiple myeloma. These are the malignancies that can cause your peripheral neuropathy. Then you add in the malignancy paraneoplastic syndrome as well. Then pathogenesis of peripheral neuropathy is classified into two types. So, pathogenesis of peripheral neuropathies of two types. We have the demyelination peripheral neuropathy and we have the axonal demyelinating and axonal. Acquired demyelinating polyneuropathy falls in two groups. Acquired demyelinating polyneuropathy acquired demyelinating polyneuropathy falls in two groups, that is the acute form and the chronic form. Acute form is called as the acute intermittent demyelinating polyneuropathy, your GB syndrome. This is the acquired demyelinating polyneuropathy, GB syndrome. Acute inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy is GB syndrome. And in the chronic demyelinating polyneuropathy, we have the chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, which is steroid dependent, that is CIDP. So this was the demyelinating polyneuropathies. Then we have the axonal, we have the demyelinating pathogenic peripheral neuropathy is classified into two types. We have the demyelinating and we have the axonal. Here we have discussed the demyelinating. Now another way is that we can also have the small fiber neuropathy and the large fiber neuropathy. Large fiber and we have the small fiber neuropathy. So what are the examples of large fiber neuropathy? There is significant motor disturbance or loss of deep reflexes with minimal sensory loss. So there is motor disturbance which is very significant motor disturbances, and there is loss of deep reflexes. There will be loss of deep reflexes, but there is very minimum sensory loss is very minimal. So in large fiber neuropathy, there is motor disturbance, which is very significant motor disturbance in large fiber neuropathy, and deep tender reflexes are lost, and deep reflexes are lost, and there is sensory loss, which is very minimal. While in small fiber neuropathies, the muscle power and deep reflexes are less disturbed, are less effective. That is motor disturbances, that is your power, and the deep reflexes, these are very less affected, very less affected. Motor disturbance and deep reflexes are very less affected, than the affection of pain and temperature sensation. So there is pain, that is sensory complaints, pain and temperature sensations, they are affected, they are more affected. So in small fiber, this muscle power and deep reflexes are not affected, but the affection of pain and temperature sensations are affected. And the examples are diabetes mellitus of small fiber. I am talking about small fiber. We have the diabetes mellitus, alcoholism. So that's why they don't feel pain, they don't feel temperature. Diabetic, alcoholic. diabetic, alcoholic, then drugs, then HIV and paraneoplastic. All these diabetic, alcoholic, HIV, they are small fiber neuropathy. Small fiber neuropathy. They have more of disturbance in the pain and temperature. Then enumerate the neurological manifestation of alcohol abuse. The examiner can ask, if patient is consuming alcohol, what are the neurological manifestation? Then you will say the features of alcohol intoxication and alcohol withdrawal. In alcohol withdrawal, you find the tremor, delirium tremors. In alcohol intoxication and withdrawal, you have to enumerate the features, neurological features of alcohol abuse, that is alcohol intoxication or alcohol withdrawal. Then features of peripheral sensory motor polyneuropathy. Peripheral sensory motor polyneuropathy will be there. Peripheral sensory motor polyneuropathy will be there. Then Wernicke's encephalopathy, which is because of, in Wernicke's encephalopathy there is pyridoxine deficiency. What happens in Goa? Global confusion, ophthalmoplegia and ataxia. In Wernicke's encephalopathy, global confusion, ophthalmoplegia and ataxia. This is your Wernicke's B6 deficiency. Then you have the Crosskopf psychosis, in which you find the dementia. Crosskopf psychosis, in which you find the dementia. Crosskopf psychosis, you find the dementia. Then we have the cerebellar degeneration. Cerebellar degeneration, you will find the ataxia. In cerebral degeneration, you will find the ataxia. Then you have the optic atrophy, myopathy, rhabdomyolysis, cerebral pontine myelonesis. So what are these CNS manifestation of alcoholism? Alcohol intoxication, alcohol withdrawal symptoms, then symptoms of sensory motor polyneuropathy, peripheral sensory motor. There is sense as sensory system, motor, both are occur in alcoholism, sensory motor. Polyneuropathy, then Wernicke's encephalopathy, you know, and Crosskopf, you know. In Crosskopf there is dementia, you know. In Wernicke's B6 levels are down, and there is Goa mnemonic, you know. This is these things you know, but the things you have to remember, there is sensory motor polyneuropathy, there is alcohol intoxication, alcohol withdrawal, and despite this there is cerebellar degeneration, and that can lead to manifest as ataxia. Other than that, there is optic atrophy, there is myopathy, there is rhabdomyolysis. Rhabdomyolysis is muscle breakdown in alcoholic, and central pontine myelonesis. So these are the alcoholic features in alcohol abuse. Then 6 common causes of peripheral neuropathy in clinical practice. The examiner can ask, write down the 6 causes of peripheral neuropathy in clinical practice. So you will write down the leprosy. The commonest cause is globally is leprosy, then diabetes mellitus, then Guillain-Barré syndrome, then chronic renal failure, then toxin induced like alcohol and isoniazid. Then in the last, B1, B6, B12 and nicotinic acid deficiency. B1, B6, B12 and nicotinic acid deficiency. So these are the common causes of peripheral neuropathy in clinical practice. We have the leprosy, diabetes mellitus, Guillain-Barré syndrome, chronic renal failure, toxins like your isoniazid and your alcohol, and B1, B6, B12 and nicotinic acid deficiency. So these are also common. B vitamins and diabetes, you know, very common. Leprosy, then chronic renal failure and toxins. GB syndrome, I don't think it is so common. Then classification of neuropathy by evolution. How will you classify neuropathy based on the evolution? So whether it is acute, whether it is subacute, whether it is chronic, whether it is long standing, or whether it is recurrent neuropathy. So if the neuropathy is occurring acutely, you should think of acute neuropathy occurs in GB syndrome, occurs in diphtheria, occurs in porphyria, occurs in malignancies, occurs in drugs like dapsone, arsenic, drugs like dapsone, arsenic, triorthocrysyl phosphate, dapsone, arsenic, triorthocrysyl phosphates that can cause the acute onset. So what are the acute onset? Acute onset neuropathy is caused by GB syndrome, diphtheria, porphyria, malignancies, and drugs we mentioned. So GB syndrome, diphtheria, porphyria, GDP because acute neuropathy, GDP, Guillain-Barré diphtheria and porphyria, GDP. Then in your subacute porphyrias, it is seen in alcoholics and in nutritional causes like B12 folic acid deficiencies and toxics like hexacarbon. So subacute is alcoholic, nutritional, and chronic you find in diabetes mellitus, chronic renal failure, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, paraneoplastic also cause chronic again repeat diabetes, chronic renal failure, CIDP, and paraneoplastic if you want to add you cannot. So DCC, DCC, DCP causes chronic neuropathies, diabetes, chronic renal failure, CIDP, paraneoplastic, that is your DCP. It was here the GDP, here it is DCP. Then what are the causes of long-standing neuropathy? You have the Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, long-standing. Then in the recurrent is relapsing CIDP, recurrent neuropathy is seen in relapsing CIDP. Porphyrias can cause recurrent, and alcoholic can cause recurrent. Even toxic neuropathies are recurrent. Alcohol toxics are nearby. CIDP relapsing type is recurrent. Porphyria is also recurrent neuropathies. Then what are the sensations carried by long track? Sensations carried by long track. Sensation carried by long track or the lateral column, we have the pain sensation carried by the long track or the lateral column. Then temperature sensation, pain, temperature is hot and cold, and crude touch. Crude touch mainly goes through anterior spinothalamic tract. Okay, so the crude touch, what is the long track is your sensation carried by the long track. You have the spinothalamic tract. This is the sensation carried by long track. We have the two types of long track. We have the spinothalamic tract and we have the posterior column tract. In the spinothalamic tract, you have the pain, touch, and temperature, and the touch which is there is crude touch. Pain, touch, and temperature. Lateral column also carries the pyramidal tract, that is the motor pathway. Then the posterior column is also called as the tract of Gall and Budak. So posterior column tract, what are the sensations carried by the posterior column? Posterior column carries the vibration sense, it carries your muscle sense, it carries your pressure sense, it carries your joint sense, it carries your position sense. So vibration sense, muscle sense, pressure sense, joint sense, position sense, these are all the proprioception or the deep sensation. Again repeat, vibration, muscle, pressure, joint, position, these are the posterior column. Even fine touch, well localized touch, And cortical sensation, assay periparietal lobe function, that is the cortical sensation, fine touch and cortical sensations, these are also carried by the posterior column. So vibration sense, muscle sense, position sense, pressure sense, joint sense, this carried by the posterior column. Testing of sensory functions are described in the section of Charcot joint. Sensory functions of taste sensation. Testing of sensory functions. Now the question examiner can ask, the patient is high BP with peripheral neuropathy with increased blood pressure, what are the causes? Then you will say it could be Guillain-Barré syndrome, there is fluctuating BP, peripheral neuropathy, polyarteritis nodosa, there is BP fluctuating and there is neuropathy, lead poisoning, even chronic renal failure, porphyria, acute intermittent variety, porphyria, amyloidosis. So these are the causes of high blood pressure. So what are the causes of peripheral neuropathy with high blood pressure? GB syndrome, polyarteritis nodosa, it can cause peripheral neuropathy. GB syndrome, lead poisoning can have high blood pressure. Porphyrias can have polyarteritis, chronic renal failure, acute intermittent porphyria. Amyloidosis can have high blood pressure. So these goes hand in hand. Like amyloidosis affect the kidney, high blood pressure can occur in amyloidosis, even chronic renal failure, high blood pressure, GB syndrome, polyarteritis nodosa, lead poisoning, high blood pressure, acute intermittent porphyria. So GB syndrome and porphyria, you remember, I think GB syndrome and porphyria add lead poisoning, and then your amyloidosis, porphyria with peripheral neuropathy with high blood pressure. Then what are the causes of predominantly motor neuropathy? Predominantly motor neuropathy. It occurs in GB syndrome, porphyria, diphtheria, lead poisoning. So these you have to remember. GB syndrome, porphyria, diphtheria, leprosy. Diphtheria, it causes acute also. Diphtheria, Guillain-Barré syndrome, porphyria, even lead poisoning, GDPL. This causes the predominant motor neuropathy. Even HIV cause predominant motor neuropathy. Even hereditary neuropathy is also motor predominantly. These are the causes of proximal motor weakness more than the distal motor weakness in peripheral neuropathy. Also in diabetic amyotrophy, proximal muscles are predominantly affected. Diabetic amyotrophy. So motor neuropathy are predominantly proximal. And what are the examples? GDPL, Guillain-Barré is motor, predominantly motor is Guillain-Barré, diphtheria, porphyria, lead poisoning, GDPL. These are predominantly motor. If they are predominantly motor, they are mostly proximal groups are involved. And even in addition to that, there are certain other conditions like connective tissue disorders are also mostly motor. Even your HIV/AIDS is motor. Then what are the causes of predominantly sensory neuropathy? Predominantly sensory neuropathy. Predominantly sensory neuropathy, you have the leprosy, you have the drugs like vincristine, nitrofurantoin, isoniazid. Then diabetes mellitus is also predominantly sensory. Renal failure, alcoholism is predominantly sensory. Renal failure is predominantly sensory. B12 folic acid is predominantly sensory. Hereditary sensory neuropathy. Then HIV infection is sensory. Paraneoplastic is sensory. So mainly leprosy, drugs like nitrofurantoin, isoniazid, vincristine, these are sensory. Even diabetes is sensory, renal failure is sensory neuropathy, alcoholism is sensory predominant neuropathy. So alcoholic patients, you will forget it. Remember a alcoholic tha, you have seen him in the clinic, you are sitting in the clinic, he comes to you with cheap complaint of I have a very pains, हमें चेंटियाँ चल रही है टांगों में, pins or needles, alcoholic, you are sitting in the clinic, he comes to you and you prescribed him the you prescribed him some neuropathic medication and he got relief. So he was having which type of neuropathy? He was having predominantly sensory neuropathies. Like alcoholic, they can come to you patient with renal failure also. They are predominantly sensory. And diabetes, you have seen already, they have most of the time sensory complaints. So diabetes, renal failure, alcoholic, you can remember in this way. They have predominantly sensory neuropathies. Then peripheral neuropathy with cranial nerve involvement. Then question can come, peripheral neuropathy with cranial nerve involvement. Then you will say we have this in this was the diagram I have made, but I forgot. In diphtheria 3, 6, 9, 10. Diphtheria is 3, 6, 9, 10. Then diabetes is 3, 4, 6. This is diabetes, cranial nerve involvement. In seventh nerve affection, you will see in GSL, that is your GB syndrome, leprosy, sarcoid, they have 7 nerve affection. They affect the 7th nerve. Friedreich ataxia, you know, it causes optic atrophy. It can cause optic atrophy. So there is cranial nerve involvement predominant. 3, 4, 6 in diabetes, 3, 6, 9, 10 in diphtheria. Seventh nerve in 3 conditions: GSL, Guillain-Barré, sarcoid, and leprosy. Second nerve in optic Friedreich ataxia. So these are the cranial nerve involvement. Then the painful neuropathies. What are the conditions in which you get painful neuropathy? So you can get in, I think, the same causes. This diabetes, you know, they are predominantly sensory, and similarly, so pain is also sensation. Alcoholic also has sensory complaints, predominantly sensory neuropathy, so they are having the painful neuropathy. Then B12, B1 also sensory most of the time, so they are also having pains. So diabetic, alcoholic, B1, B12, they have painful neuropathies. In addition to that, if you want to add painful neuropathy, you add porphyria's painful neuropathies, and you can add vasculitis, arsenic, uremic neuropathy, that is renal failure, arsenic, uremic, and vasculitis is also painful neuropathy, and carcinomatous neuropathy, AUVC, these are also painful neuropathy. What are the painful neuropathies? Diabetic, you are seeing in the ward, they are mostly sensory complaints are there, so it is sensory neuropathy. Alcoholics, they also complain like this. They have the, you have seen in the clinic, one patient comes to you, he's having alcoholic patient with renal failure, he is having painful sensory complaints. Uremic is also kidney related, so painful. B1, B2, you know, you have seen that cases, you prescribe them the B12 folic acid, they get cured, so they also painful neuropathy. Porphyria is also painful neuropathies. Despite that, if you want to remember vasculitis and arsenic, you can remember they are mostly painful neuropathies. Then what are the drugs causes the pain neuropathies? Drugs, you know, isoniazid, you know, vincristine, you know, nitrofurantoin. These 3 drugs you know, I hope. In addition to that, if you want to add dapsone, where you read dapsone? Dapsone cause predominantly motor neuropathy. In addition to that, you know, thalidomide, you know, it causes sensory neuropathies. Dapsone is motors. Thalidomide is sensory. Then cisplatin also cause your peripheral neuropathy. Amiodarone also cause neuropathy. Pyridoxine high doses can cause neuropathy. Paclitaxel, stavudine, pentamidine, these can also cause your drug causing neuropathy. 3, you know isoniazid, you know vincristine, you know nitrofurantoin. If you want to add, you add dapsone, motor symptoms more, thalidomide sensory symptom more, amiodarone can cause, in addition cisplatin can cause. You can remember if you want to. Then comes the question, what are the causes of mononeuritis multiplex? What are the causes of mononeuritis multiplex? So what is mononeuritis multiplex? It is the asymmetric involvement of multiple non-contagious peripheral nerves serially or at a time over days to years, and is usually due to the arteritic involvement of the vasa nervosum, that is multiple mononeuropathy. Diagnosis is done clinically and is supported by electric studies, nerve conduction velocities. It gives a picture of distal symmetric neuropathy and is commonly found in these conditions. So what is it? It is asymmetric involvement of the multiple non-contagious peripheral nerves. Asymmetric involvement of the multiple non-contagious peripheral nerves. Asymmetrical involvement of the multiple non-contagious peripheral nerves. Multiple non-contagious peripheral nerves. Asymmetric involvement of the multiple. Mononeuritis multiplex means multiple nerves. Mononeuritis means single nerve which are non-contagious. Multiple non-contagious peripheral nerves are involved. Asymmetric involvement of the multiple non-contagious peripheral nerves at a time, serially or at a time over days to years, and is due to the involvement of the artery that supplies the vasa nervosum. So what are the conditions in which you get the mononeuritis multiplex? It is the asymmetrical involvement of the multiple non-contagious peripheral nerves serially at a time or over days to years. Serially at a time or at a time over days, serially or at a time over days years, and is due to the arterial involvement of the nerves, arteries supplying the vasa nervosum, and is commonly found to it in this mononeuritis multiplex in leprosy. You will find in diabetes mellitus. You will find in polyarteritis nodosa, sarcoidosis, vasculitis, rheumatoid arthritis, amyloidosis, trauma, HIV, hepatitis C infection, GB syndrome, paraneoplastic syndrome. So leprosy, diabetes, if you want to add, rheumatoid arthritis, amyloidosis, vasculitis, HIV. There are multiple nerves are involved in leprosy, in diabetes, polyarteritis nodosa, multiple nerves are involved, sarcoidosis, multiple nerves. What are the connective tissue disorders? Sarcoidosis, polyarteritis nodosa. Polyarteritis are basically vasculitis. The connective tissue is sarcoid and rheumatoid. Sarcoid and rheumatoid are connective tissue. Polyarteritis nodosa and vasculitis are the vasculitis type. So you can add either polyarteritis or vasculitis, sarcoid, rheumatoid, amyloidosis, infections like HIV and hepatitis C, trauma, Guillain-Barré syndrome can cause mononeuritis multiplex. So the involvement is usually asymmetrical with predominant affection of the lower limb. There is asymmetrical involvement of the multiple non-contagious nerves at serially or at a time over days and weeks. Asymmetric involvement. The involvement is usually asymmetric with predominant affection of the lower limb. So note to be, what are the notes to be made? Neuropathy is a pathological process. What is neuropathy? Neuropathy is a pathological process which affects the peripheral nerves. Neuropathy affects the peripheral nerves. Neuropathy affects the peripheral nerves. While peripheral neuropathy or polyneuropathy is diffuse symmetrical disease process of peripheral nerves, Peripheral means that the disorder is outside the central nervous system, involving the peripheral parts of the body and gradually progressing proximally. So what was neuropathy? Was the pathological process that affects the peripheral nerve, that is your neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy, a diffuse metrical process of peripheral nerves involving the peripheral parts of the body. Symmetric process of peripheral nerves that involves the peripheral parts of the body. What is mononeuropathy? Mononeuropathy Mononeuropathy is the focal involvement of a single nerve trunk. Focal involvement of the single nerve trunk, either radial nerve, single nerve trunk, which is involved is mononeuropathy. Single nerve is involved is mononeuropathy, whether it is ulnar, median, radial. It is commonly due to this leprosy, entrapment neuropathy, trauma, vasculitis. So mononeuropathy is commonly seen in leprosy, vasculitis, trauma, leprosy, vasculitis, trauma, and entrapment neuropathies, trauma, vasculitis, leprosy, entrapment neuropathy. So this is mononeuropathy. Mononeurotus multiplex already described the causes like leprosy, diabetes, vasculitis, polyarteritis nodosa, sarcoid, rheumatoid. These are all the causes of mononeurotus multiplex. Radiculopathy, a pathological process that affects the nerve roots. If nerve roots are involved, that is your radiculopathy. If peripheral nerves involved, and that is peripheral neuropathy. If a single nerve is involved, that is mononeuropathy. Then, which distal sensation is lost early in peripheral neuropathy? Vibration sensation. So, which sensation lost early in case of peripheral neuropathy? Which distal sensation? It is talking about the sensation distal. So you will say vibration sense is lost early. Vibration sense is carried by the posterior column, that is the column of Gould and Buddock. Vibration sense is lost early in the peripheral neuropathy. Very common feature in diabetic neuropathy. Diabetic neuropathy, vibration sense. So that importance of tuning fork lies here, because vibration sense first of all go. So you will put the tuning fork and you will check whenever the examiner gave the diabetic neuropathy. Vibration sense is lost early in the peripheral neuropathy, very common feature in diabetic neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy follows the rule that is the longer the nerve fiber, that is the axonal length, the earlier is the involvement. So neuropathy follows the rule is that if longer the nerve, that is the longer the axon length, then earlier is the involvement, and that is why the distal part of the body, globe and stalking distribution is affected earliest. Globe and stalking is affected earliest and most, and as the distal parts of the limbs are supplied by the long nerves. Distal parts are supplied by the long nerves, so it follows the rule the longer the axonal length, the longer earlier is the involvement, and that is why the globe and stacking distribution is seen, because the feet are involved first, because the legs are supplied by the longer nerve, so it is affected first. So this is the peripheral neuropathy follows the rule the longer the nerve, the axonal length, the earlier is the involvement. That is why the distal part of the body is affected the earliest and the most. Now the question comes, how did diphtheria, if someone has diphtheria, how does the patient of diphtheria presents to you and what will you say? So the patient with diphtheria present with the paralysis of the soft palate, they have the paralysis of the soft palate, there will paralysis of the soft palate, there is the weakness, paralysis of the posterior pharyngeal wall. Paralysis of the posterior pharyngeal wall occur early. Within 10 days, there will be soft palate paralysis, posterior pharyngeal wall involvement. There is paralysis of accommodation. Accommodation will gone. There will be difficulty in reading small objects. Polyneuropathy usually develops 2 to 6 weeks after the onset of the disease. Weakness involves all the 4 limbs. So all 4 limbs will be affected in your diphtheria. And the neuropathy stands from arms to legs. It moves from arms to legs. So there is paralysis of the short palate, posterior pharyngeal wall weakness. Accommodation will go away. There is weakness of all the forelimbs in diphtheria. The paralysis stands from arms to legs. The cranial nerves which are affected in diphtheria is 3, 6, 9 and 10. Cranial nerves are affected in diphtheria. Then how does the diabetic patient neuropathy presents? The diabetic neuropathy presents with distal, symmetric, sensory polyneuropathy. This is the most common. Repeat again, distal, symmetric, sensory polyneuropathy. Then they can have a distal, symmetric, sensory motor polyneuropathy, distal symmetric sensory, distal symmetric sensory motor polyneuropathy, mainly small fiber, mixed type or large fiber. Then asymmetric proximal motor, that is the diabetic amyotrophy. Amyotrophy means only motor system. Asymmetric proximal motor. Asymmetric proximal motor neuropathy, that is the diabetic amyotrophy, asymmetrical proximal motor. Then asymmetric mononeuritis multiplex, which is painful. Asymmetric mononeuritis multiplex, this is painful. This is also the presentation of diabetes. Then asymmetric mononeuropathy, only one nerve, mononeuropathy, that is 3, 4, 6, ulnar nerve, median nerve in the forearms, rarely 3, 4, 6, ulnar nerve, median nerve. Asymmetric, either it is mononeuritis multiplex, asymmetric, it can be mononeuropathy also. Then radiculopathy, it involves spinal nerves over the chest wall or the abdomen, radiculopathy. Then autonomic neuropathy. So we'll repeat the affections, how the diabetic can present. It can present either as distal symmetric sensory polyneuropathy, distal symmetric sensory motor polyneuropathy, asymmetric proximal motor neuropathy, which is amyotropic diabetic amyotrophy, asymmetric mononeuritis multiplex, which is painful. Then asymmetric mononeuropathy, the nerves involved are 3, 4, 6, ulnar nerve, median nerve. Then radiculopathy usually involves the spinal nerves over the chest wall and the abdomen. Then autonomic neuropathy. Then comes the question, neuropathy with predominant upper limb involvement. Neuropathy with predominant upper limb involvement, we have the DRP, predominant upper limb involvement, diphtheria, rabies, porphyria. RDP, you can also say the upper limb में RDP चढ़ता है, हाँ, RDP transfuse in the upper limb. So the predominant upper limb involvement is rabies, diphtheria and porphyria. RDP कहाँ चढ़ता है? Random donor platelet or is given in the upper limb. So the predominant upper limb involvement is seen in rabies, diphtheria and porphyria. Then then neuropathy with the predominant autonomic system, autonomic nervous system involvement. Yani autonomic neuropathy, what are the conditions you will find? Diabetes, Guillain-Barré syndrome, acute intermittent porphyria, HIV/AIDS, amyloidosis, peroneal muscle atrophy, botulism, Sjogren, Shy-Drager, Relay Day syndrome. So main thing you have to remember here, the autonomic neuropathy. Diabetes, you know. Guillain-Barré, you know. Acute intermittent porphyria, HIV/AIDS, amyloidosis, peroneal muscle atrophy, botulism, Sjogren syndrome, Shy-Drager syndrome, Relay Day syndrome. Out of these, you have to remember, this is very important. Diabetes, Guillain-Barré, AI, acute intermittent porphyria, AIDS, amyloidosis. AIDS, amyloidosis, intermittent porphyria. You can remember at GAAD, GD, 3 times A. Amyloidosis, AIDS, acute intermittent porphyria. amyloidosis, AIDS, acute intermittent porphyria, diphtheria, and your Guillain-Barré syndrome, they have the autonomic involvement, autonomic neuropathy. Then this is very important question which now we will discuss. Very important question. This is the difference between your myelopathy. What is myelopathy? What is neuropathy? And what is myopathy? So what is myelopathy? What is myelopathy? What is neuropathy? And what is myopathy? So what is this? Myelopathy and neuropathy, they can affect any age, while myopathy you will specially find in childhood. Another thing is tingling and numbness. It is the feature of neuropathy. Tingling and numbness, it is the feature of neuropathy. While you can find sometimes in myelopathy, but it will never seen in myopathy. Tingling and numbness, it is the feature of neuropathy. Tingling and numbness, neuropathy. Then bowel and bladder involvement, you know it is your myelopathy. The bowel and bladder involvement is there in myelopathy, while it is usually absent in other twos. Bowel and bladder is the feature, just like tingling and numbness is the feature of neuropathy. Similarly, bowel and bladder feature of myelopathy. Then there is one more question. Atrophy, pseudoatrophy is both feature is you're seen in pseudoatrophy, and atrophy feature you find in myopathy, while in myelopathy and neuropathy you will find only atrophy. If atrophy and pseudoatrophy both there, you will say it is your myopathy. If only atrophies are there, you will say it is either your this myelopathy or your this neuropathy. Then comes the question bilateral symmetric involvement. Bilateral symmetric involvement is most of the times bilateral symmetric involvement is most of the time is seen in your myopathy, while it is initially asymmetrical. Neuropathy usually does not have bilateral symmetricality, but initially it is asymmetrical. It may be bilateral symmetrical in myelopathy, maybe asymmetrical in, maybe present symmetricness may be present. It is present in myopathy, you know, but it may be present in myelopathy, but in neuropathy it is usually asymmetric but may be present. Initially it is always asymmetrical in neuropathy. Then cranial nerve involvement. Cranial nerve involvement is the feature of neuropathy. It is the feature of neuropathy. Like in GB syndrome, you find the seventh nerve involvement. Diphtheria, you find the 3, 6, 9, 10. It is the feature of your neuropathy, cranial nerve involvement, but it is not the feature of myelopathy. It is not the feature of your this myopathy. Cranial nerve involvement is the feature of neuropathy. Then girdle-like sensation. This is very important. Girdle-like sensation. Girdle-like sensation. It is the feature of myelopathy present in compressive myelopathy and acute transverse myelitis. So girdle-like sensation is the feature of acute transverse myelitis and compressive myelopathy, while girdle-like sensation is absent in other two conditions. So bowel and bladder, girdle-like sensation, these things you are getting, you are making the diagnosis of myelopathy, because these are only seen in this myelopathy, girdle-like sensation, bowel and bladder involvement. Other do they don't have girdle-like sensation, they don't have bowel and bladder involvement. Then upper border of sensory loss. This is also very important feature. Sensory involvement. It is patchy in neuropathy. Upper border of sensory loss will be there in your myelopathy. Upper border of sensory loss will be there, and there is a dermatomal loss will be there. Oh, this is not this is your motor now. So there is always upper border of your sensory loss. There is patchy sensory loss, and there is sensory loss never occur in your myopathy. Then motor involvement is depends upon the involvement of the myotome. See, myotomal involvement will be there, so motor involvement depends upon the involvement of the myotome. But motor involvement mainly distal in neuropathy, mainly distal motor involvement, and here it is predominantly myopathy is predominantly proximal. Neuropathy motor involvement is mainly distal. Myopathy, the motor involvement is mainly proximal, whilst in myelopathy, the motor involvement depends upon the myotome which is involved. Then tone of the muscle, it is usually spasticity in myelopathy, expect in shock stage. So what is your tone in neuropathy? Neuropathy is always like your element type with the element type paralysis with what I discussed recently, that these neuropathies are just nothing but it is a element type of paralysis. Neuropathy is element type of paralysis plus sensory abnormalities, that is your neuropathy. So tone will be flaccid, that is hypotonia. Here in myopathy we find the hypotonia. In myelopathy, can you get the hypotonia? Yes, you get in shock stage only. Otherwise, you get the hypotonia, that is spasticity in myelopathy. Spasticity in myelopathy, except in shock stage. Then deep reflexes lost or decreased in neuropathy, while it is normal in myopathy. The reflexes, deep reflexes, while it is brisk in myelopathy, except in shock stage. So the normal reflexes, it is myopathy, lost reflexes, it is neuropathy, brisk reflexes is your myelopathy. Then extensor, I told you it is never extensor. So plantar response we are discussing, plantar response will never be extensor. Then what it will be either lost or diminished, either mute or diminished. Sorry, it is either flexor, response is either flexor or mute. Here it is flexor and here it is extensor. In myelopathy it is extensor, here it is flexor, or mute, here it is flexor. Then comes the confirmation of myelopathy is done by MRI, CT or myelography. For myelopathy, you will do the myelography. For myelopathy, you will do the myelography, CT, MRI for myelopathy. For neuropathy, you will do the nerve conduction velocity. For neuropathy, nerve conduction velocity. And for myopathy, you will go for the electromyography. For myopathy, electromyography. Now, what are the features of root lesion? If someone has root lesion, what are the features? So you will say it depends upon whether anterior root involved or posterior root is involved. If anterior root is involved, you will have the weakness, motor weakness, and there will be muscle atrophy. This weakness and muscle atrophy is seen in the root distribution. Motor weakness and muscle atrophy, you will see it in the root distribution. Muscle atrophy and weakness, you will see in the root distribution. Muscle atrophy and weakness, you will see it in the root distribution. This is the anterior root. And in the, if the posterior root is involved, you will find the root pain. Hyperalgesia, hyperasthesias, root pain, hyperasthesias you will get if there is posterior root is involved, according to the segments compressed. And this root pain, algesias, hyperasthesias, it depends on the area, it acts on the segments which is being compressed. There is root pain, there is hyperalgesia, there is hyperasthesia. Different types of sensory abnormalities, for example hyperasthesias with an upper level which is usually a bit above the segmental level at the site of compression, commonly seen. So features of root lesion or radiculopathy, it depends upon whether anterior root is involved or posterior root is involved. If the anterior root is involved, there will be weakness, muscle atrophy in the root distributed area. There will be weakness, muscle atrophy in the root distributed area. And if the posterior root is involved, there will be root pain, there will be hyperesthesias, hyperalgesias, and it occurs in the root distribution segment which is being compressed. A examiner can ask what are your differential diagnoses. So we'll discuss now the differential diagnosis of your case. So first etiological differential, then similarities in clinical features. Etiological differences, differentials, and depending on the clinical features, the differential. Etiologically differential could be diabetes mellitus, leprosy, GB syndrome, drug-induced arsenic. So diabetes, there will be history of polyphagia, polyuria, polydipsia. Diabetes is there. Then there will be history of taking the OHA or insulin. Then there will be maybe history of retinopathy or nephropathy may be there. There may be susceptibility to infection and delayed wound healing. Susceptibility to infection and delayed wound healing. The polyphagia, polydipsia, polyuria, susceptibility to infection, delayed wound healing, retinopathy, neuropathy, OHA on insulin. These are the history will be there. If leprosy will be there, typically hypopigmented lesions, anesthetic skin lesions, hypopigmented, anesthetic skin lesions, palpable peripheral nerves will be there. Palpable peripheral nerves, trophical skin changes, Leone faces may be present. Trophical skin changes, Leone faces may be there, palpable peripheral nerves will be there, typical hypopigmented lesions, anesthetic skin patches, hypopigmented lesion, anesthetic skin patches, palpable peripheral nerves, hypopigmented skin lesion, anesthetic skin patches, palpable peripheral nerves, trophic changes, Leone faces, you will get in leprosy. If GB syndrome is there, read the section on GB syndrome. In paraplegia, if drug induced there may be history of prolonged intake of nitrofurantoin, isoniazid, vincristine, and associated disease for which he is taking, for example, tuberculosis, leukemia. For leukemia, you are taking the vincristine. For tuberculosis, you are taking the isoniazid, and for UTI, you are taking the nitrofurantoin. Then drug induces predominantly sensory neuropathy. Drug induces predominantly sensory neuropathy. Drugs are predominantly sensory. Just like alcoholic is a drug, is sensory. Renal complaints is sensory. Diabetes is sensory. Leprosy is sensory. So drug induces predominantly sensory neuropathy. Then arsenic neuropathy, if there is history of neuropathy because of the arsenic intake, then there will be early sensory symptoms, later on sensory motor, first sensory then sensory motor. Then there is raindrop skin lesion, there is hyperkeratosis of the palms and soles, hyperkeratosis, raindrop skin lesion. Then people of known geographic area like the district of West Bengal of India or Bangladesh, maybe is the known area of that area. Then using deep tube well water. Then meseline, you will find meseline in the nail, white transverse banding of the nails, meselines on the nail, white transverse banding on the nails. Then presence of anemia होता है in arsenic poisoning with or without jaundice due to hepatic involvement अगर होगा तो there will be jaundice also. There may be portal hypertension in arsenic also. Then estimation of arsenic can be done in hair, nail, urine. So arsenic is initially the sensory followed by sensory motor. There may be raindrop skin lesion. There will be hyperkeratosis palm soles. The patient have a geographical area of West Bengal or Bangladesh. Then he is using deep tip valve water. There will be meselines, white transverse band on the hand. There may be anemia with or without jaundice. Hair, nail for estimation of this arsenic. Then differential could be depending upon the similar clinical features like tabes dorsalis, subacute combined degeneration. In tabes dorsalis, there is history of exposure 10 year back. Then there will be lightning pain walking on the cotton wool, lightning pain walking on the cotton wool. Muscle sense is gone, lost muscle sense will be gone. Calm muscle and even testicles are insensitive to squeezing. Calm muscle and testicle, you touch it, there will be no insensitive, they are insensitive. Muscle sense is gone in tabes dorsalis, muscle sense is gone. Loss of all modalities of posterior column sensation will go gone. Posterior column sensation will go when tabes dorsalis. There will be tabetic faces. What is tabetic faces? There will be Argyll Robertson pupil, plus there is optic atrophy in tabes simplex. There will be Romberg sign will be positive. I repeat, what are the features of tabes? Tabes feature will be there will be a history of exposure to the syphilis at least 10 years back. There is lightning pain, sensation of walking on the cotton wool. Muscle sensation is completely gone. Calm muscles and even testicles are insensitive to squeezing. Loss of all modalities of posterior column. Tabetic faces will be there. Argyll Robertson optic atrophy will be there. Romberg sign will be positive. This is tabes dorsalis. Then what about the subacute combined degeneration? Subacute combined degeneration will have anemia plus minus icterus will be there, and there will be glossitis, then there will be plus minus splenomegaly will be there, then there will be Lermit sign will be positive. Lermit sign will be positive in subacute combined degeneration as well as in multiple sclerosis. Then Romberg sign will be positive, Brunguen sign will be positive. Then ankle jerk will be lost, ankle jerk lost. Plantar response will be bilaterally extensor. Ankle jerk lost, bilateral extensor plantar. This is your subacute combined degeneration. What is the patient has? Anemia plus minus icterus, glossitis plus minus splenomegaly, Lermit sign, Romberg sign, loss of ankle jerk, bilateral extensor. Plantar response will be there in subacute combined degeneration. Subacute combined degeneration is the demyelination of the pyramidal tract and the posterior column of the spinal cord as a result of B12 deficiency. Distal paresthesia, spastic weakness and difficulty in walking are common. Distal paresthesia, spastic weakness and difficulty in walking are common. So subacute combined degeneration is the demyelination of the pyramidal tract and the posterior column. pyramidal tract posterior column दोनों उठ जाते हैं किसमें? subacute combined degeneration में, because of B12, and that is why it is subacute combined degeneration. Not only the posterior column but also the pyramidal tract is going away, so it is combined degeneration. Pyramidal tract and posterior column is going subacute combined degeneration. Then what about the myopathy? If it is myopathy, then there will be history from childhood. There will be no sensory loss. There will be predominant proximal muscle weakness. There is pseudoatrophy plus hypertrophy plus atrophy. No bowel and bladder involvement is there. Then plantar response is flexor in myopathy. So history from childhood, no sensory involvement, proximal predominantly, pseudo hypertrophy atrophy, bowel bladder not involved, plantar response will be flexor. Now what is TOCP? Triorthocrysyl phosphate. Triorthocrysyl phosphate poisoning. What is TOCP? Neuropathy. If someone asks, you will say TOCP poisoning is also known as the ginger paralysis. Ginger paralysis. It happens owing to the consumption of fluid extract of ginger. It occurs because of the consumption of fluid extract of ginger which was used in the manufacturing of bootleg alcohol and was adulterated with triorthocrysyl phosphate. The symptoms of TOCP polyneuropathy usually develops 10 to 20 days after the consumption of adulterated food, that is the cooking oil or drink, and produces bilateral wrist and foot drop. Bilateral wrist and foot drop with wasting of distal muscles of the limbs. So it occurs, it is also called a ginger paralysis. It occurs when the fluid extract, consumption of fluid extract of ginger. It occurs when we eat the cooking oil, adulterated cooking oil or drink. This fluid extract of ginger was used to make the bootleg alcohol. and it is being alterated. It is also called as ginger paralysis. And in this there is bilateral wrist drop and bilateral foot drop along with the wasting of the distal muscles of the limbs. So TOCB neuropathy is an also known as ginger paralysis because of the consumption of fluid extract of ginger. Then comes the question, what are the causes of foot drop? It is due to the paralysis of the extensors of the foot and peroneal muscles. Peroneal muscle, extensors of the foot and peroneal muscles. So paralysis of the extensors of the foot and peroneal muscle, it is seen in various conditions like peripheral neuropathy, peroneal muscle atrophy, then leprosy, then motor neuron disease, then connective tissue disorder, leprosy, MND, sciatic nerve lesion, uh, lead poisoning, leprosy and diabetes. These are your peripheral neuropathies, leprosy and diabetes, lumbosacral neuropathies, leprosy and diabetes, motor neuron disease, motor neuron disease, motor neuron disease, peripheral neuropathy, that is leprosy and diabetes, motor neuron disease, sciatic nerve lesion, prolapsed intervertebral disc due to the lesion in the L5 root, prolapsed for common peroneal nerve palsies, vasculitis, polyarteritis nodosa. These are the common causes of your foot drop. So peripheral neuropathy because of leprosy and this diabetes, motor neuron disease, motor neuron disease. Then it is not connective tissue disease, it is basically the vasculitis like polyarteritis nodosa. So in out of these you have to remember peripheral neuropathy, motor neuron disease, and if you remember the common peroneal nerve palsy because peroneal muscle is paralyzed, that also cause this foot drop. So in common peroneal nerve palsy you can say it, but it cause unilateral foot drop. And then CVA stroke, it has been mentioned somewhere. Lumbosacral neuronopathy, it has been mentioned somewhere. Then comes the question, what are the altered muscle sensation or deep pain sensation methods of deep pain sensation? Altered muscle sensation, deep pain sensation, deep pain sensation. So deep pain sensation, muscles of the calf or forearm are squeezed. Normal patient feels some discomfort. As you squeeze the forearm or you squeeze the calf or forearm, you will feel some discomfort, that is deep pain sensation. And this is increased, these sensations, if you are squeezing, either increased or decreased on squeezing. If you are finding nothing is there, deep pain sensation is not there, then what are the causes? And if deep pain sensations are there, what are the causes? If deep pain sensation not there, then you will think of tabes dorsalis, syringomelia, carcinomatous neuropathy. Tabes dorsalis, syringomelia, carcinomatous neuropathies, deep pain sensations are decreased, while in polyneuropathies, this is the a body sign, squeezing the calf producing the pain, a body sign in polyneuropathy, myositis and subacute combined degeneration. Deep pain sensations are increased in myositis, subacute combined degeneration, polyneuropathy. So it is either increased or decreased on pressing the calf or the forearm. If it is decreased, it is subacute. If it is a decrease, it is a tabes dorsalis, syringomelia, carcinomatous neuropathy. If it is increased, it is polyneuropathy, myositis, subacute combined degeneration. You are getting very pain in squeezing, like in subacute combined degeneration. Polyneuropathies, in myositis, you are getting the pain. Loss of testicular sensations occurs in tabes dorsalis and diabetic autonomic neuropathy. A patient may complain testicular pain in vasculitis. Vasculitis may you will feel the testicular pain while the testicular pain is gone. So you are not getting the testicular pain, then I am writing it testicular pain is absent or it is increased. If it is increased, then it is vasculitis. You are dealing with polyarteritis nodosa. If testicular pains are gone, then you are dealing with tabes dorsalis, diabetic autonomic neuropathy. diabetes or tabes dorsalis, the testicular pain are gone. Testicular pain are gone. Now comes a very important question. The examiner can ask, what are the investigation you are like to perform in a case of peripheral neuropathy? Then you will say, I want to do the routine examination for peripheral blood smear to look for the macrocytes in B12 and folic acid deficiency. I will also want to do the serum folate and B12 level. I want to do the LFT, KFT. I want to do the thyroid function test, and I will also want to do the blood sugar. I would like to do the syphilis VDRL. I would like to do the HBs surface antigen or antibodies. I would also like to do anti nuclear factor for rheumatoid arthritis. So these are the investigations. So what are the investigations in a patient of peripheral neuropathy? First, I will go in the CBC, B12, folic acid level, serum, peripheral blood smear microcytes, for syphilis VDRL, KFT for uremia, urea creatinine, sugar for diabetes, thyroid function test, then anti-nuclear factor for rheumatoid, rheumatology for rheumatoid factor, then HBS antigen. Then I will go for nerve conduction velocity, which will be reduced in neuropathy, but it is not in normal in your myelo and myopathy. It will be normal. Nerve conduction will be reduced in neuropathy. Then I will like to do the nerve biopsy. Sural nerve at the ankle is usually selected. Nerve biopsy is usually shows the inflammatory pathology. Then I will also do the electromyography to differentiate neuropathy from myopathy and the diseases of the myoneuronal junction. I can find out by electromyography. Then CSF I would like to done in your Guillain-Barré syndrome. Electrodiagnosis in neurology is done by nerve conduction velocity and electromyography. Nerve conduction velocity shows the feature of demyelination, axonal or mixed injury. Demyelination, axonal or mixed injury, that is your nerve conduction velocity. Electromyography reveals the information of electromyography, give the denervation, features of denervation. Then what are the CSF feature of Guillain-Barré syndrome? What is the CSF feature of Guillain-Barré syndrome? You will find the pressure will be normal, you will find the sugar will be normal, you will find the proteins will be increased and cells will be normal, no rise. Proteins will be high, pressures normal. There may be xanthochromia in addition and clot formation on standing. Xanthochromia and clot formation standing. Cells normal, protein high, sugar normal, pressure normal. This is the CSF picture of Guillain-Barré syndrome. Then how will you manage this case? Alcoholic neuropathy. How will you manage alcoholic neuropathy? Then you will see complete stoppage of the alcohol is necessary, complete abstinence from the alcohol, then bed rest, then injection of vitamin B1, B6, B12 twice weekly, deep IM injection methylcobalamin may be tried, either you will give B1, B6, B12. For paresthesia you can give the carbamazepine, aspirin, amitriptyline. For painful neuropathies, if you are getting the only paresthesia, you can give the carbamazepine, amitriptyline, aspirin. If there is paresthesia only, carbamazepine, amitriptyline, aspirin. But if you are getting the painful peripheral neuropathy, then you have to give the, if it is pain is there, then you have to give the, for paresthesia, carbamazepine, amitriptyline is enough, aspirin is enough. But if pain is there, then you have to add this pregabalin, you have to add the pregabalin, you have to add the tramadol, gabapentin may be helpful. Pregabalin, gabapentin, this is for painful. If it is paresthesia, carbamazepine, amitriptyline, aspirin. पैरास्थीसिया हो रहे हैं तब देना है कार्बामेज़ापिन, एमिट्रिप्टिलिन, एस्पिरिन. अगर पेन हो रहा है तब प्रीगाबालिन, गाबापेंटिन का रोल है. पेन हो रहा है ट्रेमाडोल देना है. ऑटोनोमिक फीचर्स के लिए केयर ऑफ द ब्लैडर एंड कंट्रोल दी पोस्चरल हाइपोटेंशन। ऑटोनोमिक बैलेंस को कंट्रोल करने के लिए ब्लैडर और उसका पोस्चरल हाइपोटेंशन के पार्ट को ध्यान देना है। देन फिजियोथेरेपी एंड ऑक्यूपेशनल रिहैबिलिटेशन फॉर वीकनेस, फिजियोथेरेपी एंड ऑक्यूपेशनल रिहैबिलिटेशन फॉर profound weakness. Then splinting of the foot to manage the foot drop, care of the foot ulcer and bed sore. foot ulcer और bed sore को तो केयर करना ही है। उसके अलावा splinting of the foot, empirical treatment with steroid, empirical treatment with steroid is usually disappointing, steroid का तो कोई रोल नहीं है। अब मैनेजमेंट ऑफ जीबी करते हैं। जीबी सिंड्रोम में हाई डोज इंट्रावीनस इम्यूनोग्लोबुलिन देना है। हाई डोज intravenous immunoglobulin which is 0.4 mg per kg per day for 5 days, 0.4 mg per kg per day for 5 days. Total dose is 2 gram per kg may accelerate recovery if given at the earliest. So high dose intravenous immunoglobulin, the dose is 0.4 mg per kg per day for 5 days. इसके अलावा monitor the vitals, patient may have autonomic instability, vital monitor may have autonomic instability. Control the nutrition, DVT prophylaxis and maintain the airway breathing circulation because respiratory distress can occur. Management of GB syndrome we are talking about. So vitals maintain करो, airway breathing circulation check करो, nutrition DVT prophylaxis दे दो. Plasmapheresis also is written in books. Physiotherapy is the mainstay of the treatment. Physiotherapy, then respiratory assistance in the respiratory care unit and positive pressure ventilation when the vital capacity falls below 1 liter. Vital capacity below 1 liter, go for your positive pressure ventilation. Good sportive care is necessary. Corticosteroid acid has shown no benefit. Corticosteroid ACTH, no benefit not to use them. Occupational therapy and rehabilitation. This was all about your peripheral neuropathy. Thank you.